Hello and welcome to Trackops Billing webinar. This is Lou, and I am going to walk you through the basics of billing in Trackops. Today's webinar should take about 20 minutes, and then we'll go ahead and we'll answer some questions. And I went ahead and I dropped a link that covers expense and invoice items into the chat box. That is also where I'm going to ask you to go ahead and drop any questions you might have regarding billing basics in Trackops. So let's go ahead and get started. So we're going to talk about creating expense and invoice items, and that's kind of a core aspect of the billing process in Trackops. We're going to talk about managing your employee and client price lists. We'll take a look at managing expenses and invoices, and then we'll take a look at reports on expenses and invoices, and it's just going to let you know where those are and give you an idea of what you can do with those reports. So let's go ahead and we'll start with expense and invoice items. Now, what are expenses? Expenses are items that your staff submits for reimbursement for services rendered. And invoice items are items that you're going to bill to the client, oftentimes directly related to your expenses. Great. So let's go ahead and get started and hop over to the dashboard. The dashboard should be something that you're familiar with. If you're not at this point, then I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad I'm able to help you out and teach you some things about billing today. So let's create some expense and invoice items. So from the dashboard, just go ahead and click on Settings, and then Invoice and Expense Items. And here you see the basic default items here, but it's likely you'll need something else. And you can create and edit new expenses and invoice items that will appear here and on your employee and client price lists. So we go ahead and we click New Item, create a new invoice item. So the item's name will be the default name for this item, and I have the opportunity to create an alias for my expense and for my invoice if I need it. And that alias or that alternate name will override the default name. So I'm just gonna go ahead and call this surveillance is default, but I want to call this surveillance hours for my expense item, so my staff members know to use this particular expense item whenever they're accounting for their surveillance hours. So I have an opportunity to then choose the rate type. This is an hourly rate, though I can have a fixed rate, which is a unit other than an hour. And then variable rate will leave those items blank whenever you submit it for an expense. But I'll go ahead and we'll put in our basic hourly rate for surveillance there. And then I can go down and complete my invoice item. So this is going to be the item that I place on an invoice. And then that invoice, of course, will be billed to the client. The surveillance default name is fine. And then we'll go ahead and we'll put in the default rate. Here I can put in a default description and, of course, choose my default tax rate. And you can choose and create your own customized tax rates in the finance section under tax rates. You can also add an invoice description whenever you add an item to an invoice. I don't particularly need one right now, so I'm just going to go and save this item, and we'll move on. Great. So now I have my invoice item and my invoice and expense item. I can see here that I've given it an expense alias, surveillance hours, the expense rate, which is the amount that my employee submits for services rendered, is $30 an hour. The invoice alias is just the standard, it's just surveillance, and then the default price for the client is $100. Now I can also edit my client and staff price lists. So let's take a look at that, because sometimes you will need to go ahead and make those adjustments. So now we have our basic default price. I'm going to take a look at Shirley Holmes here. So I went to staff. Let's look at that again. So I went to staff and then staff list to look for my staff member, and then click on Shirley. Great, now I'm on Shirley's profile page, and I want to click on her price list to edit her custom prices. And then I go ahead and I edit custom rates. And I see surveillance hours here, great. Shirley does a little bit better job than some of the other investigators, so I want to go ahead and give her a little bit more for her work. Great. Now we can see that her custom rate is $40, and that rate will override the default rate whenever we apply that to an expense. Great. So we're going to do the same thing to our client. And there's a little bit more involved with that, but not too much. So you click clients, then client list. And let's see here. Let's go click on Acme Insurance and their price list. And great. So we're going to edit custom prices. And their custom price is a little bit more than usual. And save that. I want to show you something else. Not only can we adjust the custom price for the entire company, we can also adjust it for specific locations. So from the price list, from the overview page, from the client profile page, you can click on locations. And if you have multiple branches and each branch has a different rate, you can also adjust that as well. And you'll see that in general, for Acme Insurance, we see this adjusted rate. Now we can change that for this particular office or branch if we need to. All right, great. So now I have created my invoice and expense items. I've adjusted my client and employee price lists. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to look at creating a new expense. So the easiest way to do that is just kind of do it within the case itself. So I'm going to click on a case I've been working on recently. So I just went to my recent cases, recent cases, and let's go ahead and let's submit a new expense. We click new expense. Do you know what a better way to do this is? Let's just look at it from Shirley's point of view. So let's go ahead and log in as Shirley. And let's just take 1 second, hop in. At the end, so click new expense. Great. So still for this week, it's for the same case. You can put in your tracking category where this expense is going to come out of. And here we're going to put in the surveillance hours. And we can see that Shirley's rate is now $40. She worked 5 hours and she was at the claimant's apartment. And then give her some mileage too. Travel to apartment. Great. So go ahead, have the opportunity to add comments if she needs to, and she can attach a receipt as well. An image or PDF file works great. Save that expense. All right. So let's go ahead and take a second. I'm going to go ahead and log out as Shirley, log back in as myself, as the manager, and we'll take a look and see what happens. Great. So now I've hopped back over to the case, and you should be able to see it here now. Great. And I want to look at the expenses tab, and I can now see that her expense has been submitted. Now, from this tab, I can approve or decline it. We can take a look at another way to approve and decline expenses by going to the Expenses tab. Go to Expense Entries. And from here, I have the opportunity to select multiple expense entries if I had several awaiting review. And I click Review Entries. All those entries would then be listed here, and I can approve and decline them across multiple cases. So in this case, I'm just going to go ahead and approve Shirley's expense. Say I'm done reviewing expenses. So let's go and click back into that case. And we see the expense has been approved there. Great. And we click on the Billing tab. And now we see that these are unbilled items on the Billing tab. And these are items that we can add to an invoice. So if I select these and I select Convert to Invoice, I have the opportunity to create a new invoice or append an existing one. I also have the chance to copy expense notes over to the invoice if available. I want to do that. And combine similar expense items to one line item if that's something you need to do. If you need to combine all of your surveillance, hours, and mileage, if that's what you need to do, then that's where you click on that and it would combine into one line item. I don't need to append an existing invoice. I do want to create a new one. I go and we'll create Convert to Invoice. Great. So as you see up here, if I need to come back and work on my invoice later, I just be sure to check Draft Invoice. but everything else I can check, make sure everything looks good. All right. And if I need to make any other final adjustments, add any other items to the invoice, you can do that here. So you see I can click and drag and move things in order. I can remove them if I need to. I can add additional items. And these items would appear from my invoice item list. So that's what I do there. And real quick, if you do have a retainer on your client, then you could use that here. It's just underneath the grand total on your invoice. You click on that link, and then you would utilize this particular retainer. I don't want to do that today. You can also refresh your terms here, drop them in there in case you needed to put them there. Public notes to the client, and also internal notes if you needed to make a note on the invoice for your folks in the office. Great, so everything looks good. I'm going to save the invoice, and I have an opportunity to send it. Now I can create a PDF of it and save it to my desktop, a local drive, or attach it to another email and send it in a case update. I can also send this by mail directly here. It goes to the contact, good old Darren Stevens, lets me know when it was sent. This hasn't been sent yet, and I'll mark the invoice as sent. So I can go ahead and send invoice. Great, invoice is sent. Now we are anxiously awaiting our payment. If payment doesn't make it on time, Trackops does automatically send an overdue notice at 30, 60, and 90 days. And you can set up and customize your templates that way. When a payment does come in for a case and you want to apply it to an invoice, you can just go to your invoice list and say you have your check and you want to make payment, and you have a lot of invoices, you have more than I do, you can click enter payments. And if you have the invoice number, you can put that in here, and you can go ahead. So for instance, I'll show you what that looks like. 00010. I can search. Oh, see, that brings up that invoice, and I can put the information in there if I just have a check or two. I can adjust the status and find ones that are open. Great. This is open. I want to get payment on these. You can click enter payment after checking the boxes. And here you can see I have multiple entries. I could obviously filter, check all those boxes by check all box, and get them all set, pay all my invoices in full, and then of course go back and put in the check reference numbers. I can make sure I check the box to send payment notification, say that payment's been received, thank you, and then I will do that. Payment's been made, save payments. Great. So you can now see that once you've received payment, your invoice is switched to being paid. Now that we've got our payment, we can take a quick look at our reports. So you click on the Reports tab. If you didn't see these before, you can always track down how overdue your invoices are by using the Aging by Clients report. You can also take a look at your profit and your sales distribution. Lots of information here, and it's definitely worth your while to take a look at and see how you're performing. And also you can track your expenses to see what money is going out of your business by looking at your expense reports over here on the other side. And it breaks down by day, by specific item, and then also distributes them an expense distribution report based upon a series of various criteria. So those are good reports, kind of keep you on track. Test the pulse of your company, see how things are going with your billing. That's billing basics. Looks like I do have one question, and it's asking about is invoicing available for all subscriptions? Yes, invoicing is available for all subscriptions, and that obviously we want you to take in money, and we want you to be able to bill your clients for your hard work. What is not available for all subscription levels is your expense and time tracking. That does start at the Plus plan. So Plus and Premium, you can track your expenses of your employees and their time. Basic, you cannot. So it might be something to consider if that's something you do want to start looking at, to go ahead and upgrade your subscription. Well, there's no more questions today. I do appreciate your time, and I hope everybody got something out of this. We'll go ahead and we'll look forward to seeing you again next time. And check out the videos on our YouTube channel. And of course, if you have any questions, send a ticket to support@trackops.com. Everybody have a great day. Thank you so much.